But the major message that seemed to come through in Vico's new science is that civilization was founded by a bunch of sociopaths who figured out a way to enslave other people, and took an oath among themselves: we will never give up, we will never relent, we will hold these bastards in slavery forever. And that is the main theme of Vico's new science. I think that's the major theme that Joyce used in Finnegan's Wake, and everybody writes about Vico's cycle theory, which takes up about 20 pages at the end of the book, and it's not the most important message in the book, and it's not the message that would interest Joyce.
This notion, history is a nightmare from which I'm trying to awaken, is a phrase that I hope some of the literary types are familiar with. It's a very famous phrase, happens on page 9 of one of my favorite books, Ulysses, from James Joyce.
Instead, Freud argued, civilization had actually been constructed to control the dangerous animal forces inside human beings.
Terrorism, the attack on our homeland, back from the attack on our economy, and back from the attack on our way of life. Terrorism, terrorists, hate. We must be fierce and relentless and terminate terrorism. Terrorists, you defeat them. It yearns to destroy not just the individual, but the entire international order. That's why America is safer with George W. Bush as president.
Bin Laden, Osama bin Laden, Osama bin Laden, bin Laden, Osama bin Laden, bin Laden, Osama bin Laden, bin Laden, bin Laden, bin Laden, bin Laden, Osama bin Laden.
Term management theory was originally derived from the ideas of Ernest Becker, who in the 1970s wrote a series of books in which he claimed that the uniquely human awareness of death has a great deal to do with just about everything that human beings do day to day. And his argument, very simply, is that people are the only creatures that are smart enough to recognize that we're here. And if you know that you're here, you also realize that you won't always be around. And on top of that, we realize that we will die someday, and that our deaths can occur at any time for reasons that we could never anticipate or control. And we also recognize that we're animals, and that whether we like it or not, that we're no more significant or enduring than lizards or potatoes. And according to Becker, all of these realizations would give rise to potentially debilitating terror, but that human beings rather cleverly, although not necessarily consciously, solved this existential dilemma by the creation and maintenance of what anthropologists today call culture. And Becker's point was that human beings construct cultural worldviews, beliefs that we share with other people in our groups, that essentially give us a sense that we are individuals of value in a world of meaning, and that when we have those beliefs, when we confidently subscribe to a belief that we have meaning and value, that in turn gives us a sense that we can live forever, either literally in the context of different religions that provide the hope for an afterlife, or symbolically, just the idea that we may not be here forever, but that tangible representations of our culture will remain nevertheless.
We also found that the pro-meritocratic bias was exacerbated by system threat, so that under these circumstances, the studies supporting the American dream were seen as even more convincing and well-conducted than before, and the studies casting doubt on the American dream were seen as even less convincing and less well-conducted, presumably because people are trying, unconsciously, I think, to restore legitimacy to the system following threat.
There's a theory that originated from a guy named Leon Festinger. And he was a research psychologist, and he came up with a theory called the cognitive dissonance theory. Cognitive means idea or truth, and dissonance means disharmony or uncomfortable feeling. And what his theory suggested is that you and I as human beings cannot hold two conflicting viewpoints in our minds at the same time without disharmony occurring. As soon as we make the decision, we start gathering data to support our decision. So what happens to us, you can hold two conflicting viewpoints until they come in conflict. Then you make a decision. As soon as you make the decision, you gather data to support your decision, called the cognitive dissonance theory.
All right, now Becker says, look, if in fact I'm right, if your beliefs about the nature of reality serve a death-denying function, then there's two problems. Problem number one is what happens when you encounter someone who has different beliefs. Right? Becker's point is whether you're aware of it or not, the very existence of an alternative conception of reality is fundamentally threatening. Because if you believe something, let's say that God created the earth in 6 days before taking a well-deserved break on the 7th, and you run into, let's say, someone from the South Pacific where they believe that the earth emerged from a giant coconut shell out of the side of a palm tree, well, there's a problem. Because if you accept the validity of an alternative conception of reality, you do so necessarily by undermining the confidence with which you subscribe to your own perspective. And when you do that, you expose yourself to the very anxiety that your beliefs were constructed to reduce.
Turn to MSNBC and the experts.
U.S. officials tell CNN. Bush official says that analysts say.
Pentagon officials tell us. According to U.S. intelligence.
U.S. officials say that U.S. officials here say, means officials here at the White House tell us.
Trust me. Trust me.
And by the way, we ought to kill those Arabs up there anyhow, otherwise we're going to have to fight them again.
We need to invade their countries, kill their leaders, and convert them to Christianity.
You want to know what I was doing? Shut up. I'm asking you to shut up about sex.
Quiet! Listen, cut his mic.
No, that's
shut up. No, you had your 35 minutes. Shut up.
And it is our duty as loyal Americans to shut up and shut up publicly. We expect every American to support our military, and if they can't do that, to shut up. So you keep your mouth shut.
But anyway, I'm listening to talk radio shows these days, and everyone, you know what Rush said about NAFTA? You know Rush is talking about NAFTA? I heard Rush the other day say about NAFTA, what are y'all looking for, a new dad? Grow the fuck up. Take responsibility for your fucking lives. What do you think about NAFTA, man? I'll tell you what I think. The cocksucking elite who own and run everything in this fucking country are selling it out from under us tomorrow. There ain't no battle over fucking NAFTA. That's a fucking charade. Like our elections are a fucking charade. And tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, they're selling your fucking life out from under you. Don't you ever fucking forget it either.
It's the third time I've said that. I'll probably say it 3 more times. See, in my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.